Briefcase, no vibe. Nice. This guy's being killed there. I am going to hit fast. BK, honey, alright. Who's up? Let's see. Oh, black screen. That's what we're doing. Oh, I hear my music. And I hear myself. Alright. What's going on? How you doing, Trayvon? Good to see you. Good to see you. We're gonna wait for a minute. See if we can get a couple more, and then I'm just gonna hop right into the unofficial of our favorite series, Kaiju number 8. Just kidding, Black Clover. But Kaiju number 8 had a dope chapter this week. I'm not gonna lie. Every chapter, I don't think I've hit a chapter of Kaiju number 8 where I felt like, it was you know. Every single chapter of Kaiju number 8 has been at least, and I mean at least, like a 10.1 out of 10. Been straight up fire. We'll say like these past few chapters though have been kind of like, I won't say it's not slow, because they're not slow, but you see what Naya is trying to do with the characters, right? He's like just trying to introduce them in cool ways, giving them their shine. I really like how he's handling that whole series, actually, so it's super dope. Anyway, so yeah, my boy Morris is back. Yeah, so a lot of, not everyone, but a lot of people were trying to say like Morris was never gonna come back. Okay, so like this has been one of my biggest issues with the fandom, and this happens in not just Black Clover, it happens in almost every single one. But people don't know when they just gotta wait for the story to develop. Like, why would someone like Tabata, all the way up to that point, like, and this should be a topic for today. Why would Tabata bring in Morris as such a mysterious character with a really profound magic, one of a kind? And I do want to say that every time you get a one of a kind magic, it seems that they're linked to a devil somehow, some way. So just want to put that out there. But then, what's up, Helix? But why would Tabata, who's never missed a plot point yet, just completely throw away a character that was controlling an entire kingdom's king, and, well, essentially controlling an entire kingdom, jump ship to the Spade, has a super interesting backstory, had a huge build-up line saying he has no need for any familial ties, to then become a host of the king of hell, and then just throw him away like he was nothing. Like, of course he was gonna come back. So then a lot of the Spade arc was mistaken for the end game, which is why people ended up being so upset. And it was honestly really frustrating to be a part of the fandom in the later end of the Spade arc, to be honest with you, because everyone was treating, like, let's go to Lucifero now. Everyone was treating Lucifero as if, like, oh my goodness, really? This is the end game? Like, he was never supposed to be the end game. That's why he came out. It's just like, and I know a lot of it too has to do with people just being young and not being too experienced in like reading stories, or seeing how they play out. So like that part I get, but then there's some people that just don't like, that just like say stuff to say stuff without really thinking, and it kind of sucks, because in an echo chamber like Twitter, it's very easy to spread, just false stuff and bad takes. It's really easy to spread. But as far as Lucifero goes too, it's just painting a picture, right? Like, the king in Clover Kingdom, King Clover, is exactly like Lucifero, a child, a tyrant, not smart, just very powerful, but doesn't know how to actually use his power either, right? It's the parallel that we're seeing. He's painting a picture. And again, the fact that people were trying to put Lucifero's end game, like I've been on this since, I don't know, the beginning of the Spade arc, actually, on this channel, that is not Lucifer. Like, I even have I think it's just a thumbnail and a whole video talking about how with Morris, when we found out he was possessed, I was saying this is not Lucifer. Like, it's not, and people were trying to paint him out to be, and coming to find out, he's actually Satan, and there's a huge difference between the two. So I just want to say, and I don't think there's anyone in the chat so far that's part of this issue, but let the man write the story. Like, he's writing the hell out of this story. So literally. So anyway, let's get into the officials. And like I said, we'll read it together, but then we will start talking about some theories and whatnot. Trey said they really thought Tabata would throw away 1,200. Exactly. And we're gonna exactly. There's no way. That was, honestly, it's just stupid for people to think he would just be gone. And I'm glad he came back the way he did. This was really well done. Anyway, Tabata jumps right in with Lucius, right? Greetings, how do you feel? Morris. We're gonna blame Buzz for the extra R. So I like that he's all just broken up and like, just, I didn't think he would come back like this. You know what I mean? Just severely maimed and dismembered. That's pretty cool. Back then I got mixed up on Lucifero's manifestation. I'm only alive right now because of you, Lucius. So this is the part that I want to know, is what exactly did Lucius do? So now we're talking that Lucius somehow, some way was able to be there in real time and influence the situation enough so that Morris can make it out alive. Which tells me that he wasn't, Lucius wasn't always within Julius, like not full time, is what I'm getting at. And I could be wrong. But if we're taking this in the same timeline, like, because right below this, we see that Lily comes into the picture, and he sends her off to Hino. So that means he was saved well before this. And I'm just wondering, like, exactly what he did. So I've been trying to look back into, like, the Spade, especially when Lucifero starts manifesting, right? In this little flashback that Morris sees. And the only thing I can really think is that manifestation of Lucifero was somehow being influenced or maybe even interrupted by Lucius. I don't know exactly how, but he would have to have been there at ground zero for him to be influenced like this to save Morris. So it's really weird. So yeah, again, I'm just very curious about that. So it says, so what do you need from me today? As if he's been working for him for a minute. It was just very interesting. He says, I wanted to bring you as much mutual aid as possible at this time. So then we get introduced to the Triad. Now this is super dope. And I don't even know what to make of this, to be honest with you. Because, again, Lucius would have had to have been here to be able to... You know what? Actually, I don't know why this didn't come to my mind. But it's totally possible that this is just complete and blatant time travel, right? Where he was able to go back and save them to whatever extent they were found at. However, it doesn't quite make much sense. So, like, okay. So let's say Lucius time travels and goes back to get the Triad here, right? Why not go back to a time where they were, like, whole and not on the brink of death, right? You know, it wouldn't make much sense. So that's why I'm not really rolling with the time travel thing, but he could have done this because the Triad can be problematic in the future, right? And he really only needs their power. He doesn't really need them. And he never really told them that they were a part of the plan. Not in the way that they'd be there and coherent and all that. So, kind of sucks for them. But I do like this. And I love that Tabata went with a straight up solar cross, because that is indicative of this, God, I just lost, the Holy Trinity. So that's super cool. And when we know about the Holy Trinity is that, you know, your uppermost point would be like Keter on the Tree of Life. In this case, it would be the Tamael, where it's just Satan in this case. I'm not sure what Tabata is going to do with Moloch, if anything. Hopefully he does, because Moloch is a very interesting deity. However, if he just even mentions it as being Beelzebub, that works too. But I really hope he does mention it. But anyway, you have Moloch at the top, and then you would have Bina and Bina and Hokmah. But in this case, it's the Agael with Beelzebub, and then the Satariel with what should be Lucifuge, Rofokal, or Aished Zenonim. So there's that. And then here, the fourth would be pretty much the three manifested into a one. So this is something that we've been studying for a while on this channel, and I'm glad to actually see it like illustrated in real time. That's really cool. Anyway, super dope picture, probably one of my favorites in the series right now. Love this. And I forgot who was asking me. I think it was Tragic Bait on Twitter. But at first I was tripping because he was like, oh man, they don't have any spade marks on their grimoires. But just in case any of you had the same like observation, it's just because it's the back of their grimoire, and on the, I checked, the back of their grimoires do not have, or these three in particular, not every single person, but these three don't have the spade mark on the back of their grimoire. So that's the reason for that. Really like this picture though, like how far they've fallen. The last time we saw them side by side paneled like this, they were 100% demon host form, right? So they've fallen quite far from where they were. Then Lucius touches Moris and recreates his body. Now, I love this, because I think this is something we at least all saw coming from the beginning of the Spade arc, where we knew that the Triad would be able to build a body when combining their magic together. What's kind of trippy too is we've never seen the Triad fight together, right? We've only seen them in the same room maybe 1.5 times in the beginning of the Spade arc, and then the half was just with Dante and Xenon, where Dante was recovering in the tube that Morris put him in, and then Xenon was there, but there was no Vonica, right? We've never really seen them in the same room besides that. So it's really interesting that it played out that way. And I wonder if it will end up, you know, so that we do see it at some point. I think it'll be important. Anyway, so Morris is thinking this is magnificent. He was blind before, but these eyes of mine can see it now. This is far beyond mere recovery magic. You created human bodies. That's the whole point. His plan requires him to be able to build a body from the ground up. Now, the only thing that we're really missing, or would be missing, that the Triad didn't have at the time, is putting a soul into that body, right? Now, not to say that Lucius can just straight up do that yet. I do think he's got limitations, which is why he may not have just created a body yet. Although, I don't know. I won't get into that. But anyway, this is far less than what he's going to be doing. So it's really nice to actually see that part of this plan is already happening. So he says, this magic is truly like the power of God. Now I can conduct another experiment. So I love that, you know, he acknowledges this is like the power of God, but then he goes right back into his selfish desires, right? And if you guys remember, anytime we talk about the afterlife when it comes to Japanese mythology or esoteric philosophies, attachment to your desires bring you much closer to demons. But here we have Lucius tapping his head, assumingly making him... No. I was going to say making him a paladin, but I don't think he even did that. It seems that it was just more of a brainwash type of thing. So, Morris gets up and walks away, but he's saying your magic science and your modification magic Use them to the fullest for the sake of the true world peace. And he says yes, of course, and walks away. Now, where the hell is he going? I have no idea. But Morris back on the playing field is a huge issue, right? Because even without Lucifero, he took over an entire kingdom by taking control of a much stronger mage, or so we can assume. So we have to wonder what the agenda is for Morris, and Lucius didn't really give him any instruction. In fact, it was pretty vague, like just use it for the sake of true world peace. And being that vague in this sense, unless he made some really specific brainwashing, magic stuff, whatever he's doing, that could bite him in the ass easily. But we'll assume that it doesn't for now. And he looks over at Sister Lily, and she says, "What's wrong, Lucius?" Man, this is painful, dude. This is really painful. He's just over here, got Sister Lily on his right. That's Asta's girl, man. Anyway, far, far away from this land, the future is beginning to shake in the island nation of the land of the sun. And I did point this out on Twitter. I love that this is going over his sun mark. Don't know if that was intentional, if we should be getting something from that. I did make a theory that he might have ties to Hino, along with the Triad, which I do think is valid. However, this could just be because Japan is, illustrated this way. It would look really weird if it was on the other side. So it could just be an artist thing. He says, "This future is an inconvenience. It is a threat to world peace. My paladin, will you eliminate this unstable future for me?" And she says, "Yes, of course, whatever." I like this shot for some reason, of the three of them. I don't know why. It's just really dope. Anyway, so Lucius can't make a move right now. Let us eliminate all of the groundless fears he bears. Yes, ma'am. We can't allow anything to take up even a fraction of Lucius's time. Love that Heath is still on. He's very prompt. Love that. Has not broken character. I am just curious how Lily got there, right? So, made a thread because I got a message from Lirito on Twitter telling me his thoughts, and he was saying how, God, what did he say? Shoot, I gotta go back. Because it's something we gotta consider, and it would end up making sense at the very end. I just need to know how he started it. Man, I gotta stop spamming tweets. Man. Here we go. Where's that thread at? So, yeah. Okay. So here it is. I just want to see his message because I'm forgetting the basis of what he said. But I know. Oh, okay. So he was talking about how he thinks that the first Heart Queen was possibly Benzaiten from the legend of Enoshima, the one that created Hino, right? So he says, "Hey, I have a question about the lady that fought the dragon. A part of me thinks that she's the first Heart Queen who ended up creating the land of the rising sun. She might also be the reason that the darkness magic and the world tree magic were separated." I don't know about that part. And he says, "I also noticed that during the anime canon filler, Lolo instantly recognized what key was and what country it was from, despite no one ever mentioning it before. It would make sense if the first Heart Queen was once there." And I think that makes complete and total sense, right? Because now let's look at what we have. We have. I've never seen. I don't watch anime in real time. I don't. So that part easily missed. He did give me the episode. I think it was 126. Could be lying, but I'll check it if anyone's interested. I've got to check it myself. I shouldn't be telling you guys information I have not checked upon. So shame on me for that. But I do trust Lirito. But anyway, so if she did recognize Ki, it would make sense. And remember, she's got 1,200 years of accumulated knowledge of the previous Heart Queens. And the water deity, Undine, has made a contract with them to extend this divine protection, right? Now, we have no idea what that means. I think we've been fumbling through the series, just assuming what that means. However, the only divine thing that we have seen in this series so far is Benzaiten, that celestial maiden. That is the most divine thing we have seen. And then there's Lucius, and we're not going to say he's divine. So if we take that, we can maybe even say that Benzaiten could have been our first instance of a spirit assimilation or full-on saint stage, right? To take on this 5-headed dragon. So the fact that she could be Benzaiten means that she would know about Ki. Why she would come to the Four Kingdoms still is not clear, but it would give us a direct tie to the Heart Kingdom, right? And remember, we had made these theories on this channel talking about how the Tori Gate and or the eye that Ryu has is creating this barrier where Hino normally shouldn't be able to be found by a typical mage, right? But Asta in this case happened to slip through a crack. And then in this case, Lily could have been given a tip on where to go. And we'll kind of read through that part because something important happened right after this panel right here. So they fly through and they say, odd town, there's not a soul to be seen. And then she says, over there, after like, you know, looking all crazy and amazed. Now, I do want to say that at first I was like, okay, this must be the town that the Yamis lived in. That's where the Yami clan was. They just kind of left it abandoned, which would totally make sense, right? But then I took a closer look. I don't think this is the same Tori Gate that that we saw originally, because that Tori Gate had 2 rocks by them. Now, sure, rocks could get destroyed over time, but that'd just be a weird, you know, thing to just kind of erase out of, you know, the series without ever mentioning what happens there. I don't know, it's just kind of weird. But this one is in plain water. The other one, by where Yami killed his clan, had 2 rocks on both sides of the post here. So I'm assuming there are more than one. Now, when she looks at it and she destroys it, then they start making their move, or Heath destroys it rather, excuse me. But now I do want to take this and look, she says there's not a soul to be seen, right? But I think that once this Tori Gate is broken, then they'd be able to start seeing the residents of Hino. And I know that sounds a bit crazy, but it would be a different type of barrier. And kind of think of it this way. I'll keep going back to Bleach whenever I can. You normally cannot see a Shinigami or a Hollow. Those are usually invisible to like a non-Shinigami eye, we'll say. So you have to not be in a physical body to be able to see these spiritual things. Which tells me that they're living on a higher plane of existence, or just the fact of the matter is it's a type of barrier that hides them completely from the world. So that's just what I'm getting. So now we get the Beast Magic Holy Howl. And I really like this because this doesn't mean like this is a spell. He summoned this. So now we get a good look onto what the Tori Gate was for. Now, if there was more than one, I would have to assume that there was one for each head to seal it down, right? And I hate to do this, but the Tori Gate was used in a very similar fashion in Naruto. Used it to pin down Kurama. Actually, Kurama's initial cage was nothing but Tori Gates that were made shift into like a door or a gate rather. So, but then the Tori Gates were used against like the 10 tails as well towards the end to bind the head and all of its tails. So I have to assume it was also used in a similar fashion here. But given that we were only shown one gate being destroyed, I would probably say if there are more, this is, let's say there are 5. One was destroyed. This is a fifth of the 5-headed dragon's power right now until they find and destroy the other Tori gates. This is what I would say. Which I think would give them a bit... I think it would be good for pacing, at least, for this not to be the full-on 5-headed dragon in full force. Kind of like Lucifero manifesting. I think it's only fair that they started out kind of low and then start building from there. But if it's the whole thing, they're more or less screwed. But anyway, with the holy dragon's power, let the land of the sun become the foundation of world peace. So, back to Lily. I think it makes sense that Moris's knowledge came into play here. He took 1,200 years of knowledge, and if the Heart Queen or Queens are connected to Hino, then they would know where Hino was and how to summon this dragon. So I think in that case it makes sense, and it gives Moris more purpose instead of just throwing him away. And now that I'm looking at it, I do want to say this. People are speculating who this is. I think it's just a character that we've just never met before. And of course could be wrong on this. But I am starting to disagree most with the Revchi and Roddy's thoughts. Just because both of those guys have scars, right? Roddy's has a scar, right? Or maybe I'm tripping. Roddy's might not have a scar. Anyway, Revchi definitely does. And people were saying like, oh, it could have just been healed. You know, Lucius. We just saw Lucius recreate Moris's almost whole body. But then we have Heath, where his wound is still there. So I'm going to say that it's not perfect. And I think so far we have these paladins with very specific marks on their face that kind of, it's like a receipt of their previous humanity. Heath has this, I believe, they call him Urulu in this, might not end up being his name, but I'm pretty sure he's got a type of scar on his right eye. And then we have Lily's mole. So these are things like receipts of their past humanity. They're not perfect yet. So now we get the 5 right now, the 5 Ryuzen. Can't believe it. Never thought I'd see the day I'd be face to face with the 5-headed dragon of legend. And such a dope picture. As long as the Ryuzen 7 exists, you will not lay a finger on the land of the sun. And I love this backdrop too. They're in trouble for sure. And then Asta. So here's what I'm thinking. So it seems that Ryu's obviously not there. So I wonder where he went. But it seems that Ryu has at least told these other 2 Ryuzen to keep Asta preoccupied. Now, it's a good move because Ryu understands the value that Asta has in this fight against Lucius and the Paladins. So right now, not only is keeping him safe a priority, but making sure that he's strong enough that by the time he leaves Hino, he's able to stop the threat with more than, a chance than he has now. I'm sure he's going to master Zetten with this new guy here. He says, "You're fighting me, the strongest of the Ryuzen 7. I somehow find that's probably, I won't say a lie, but inaccurate. It's usually the ones that are most bold, that want to say something like that are not actually the strongest. It's more types like this guy in the back, where they're playing this secondary role and comes off in a very nonchalant way. These guys end up being the real problem. A lot of people were on my ass towards the beginning of this channel and my whole Twitter page when I kept saying that Xenon is going to be that guy towards the end. He ends up being that guy, which is why he was the last to get shown. Like, people were not trying to hear stuff like that, but that ends up being the case 9 times out of 10. It's just the way writing is. But I will say, if he's blatantly not, or blatantly the strongest, it's definitely more of a raw power sort of thing, I feel. Whereas then you'll get someone, maybe this guy in the back, may not have as much magic power than him, but applies his magic in a way that makes him very, very tough to beat. So I'll always say, this is why I don't get into power scaling conversations too, is that it's not the amount of power someone has, it's the way that they apply that power that matters. That's the way that you win battles. Not to say that magic power and raw power don't have any place in the argument, but application ends up winning out, to me, in the end. So he says, I don't give a shit about whether you're determined or gutsy or whatever, just show me your strength. And I like that, because we need someone that does not give one shit about Asta. Not saying that Ichigo really did or didn't, but I do feel like she was, it was not so much a healthy training, right? Where this guy just wants to fight and maybe not make Asta strong in a sense, but really wants to push him, right? He seems like a bit of a bully, but yeah. And we're going to talk about the Ryuzen 7 today, but let me catch up with your chats, and we'll see. Oh, I always forget there's a color page. It looks so nice. Who did this? Jackie Pop? Yeah, looks good. I like it. I'm curious about this girl. Really want to see what she can do. And this guy, actually. Very intrigued. I like the whole ninja layout. Love the mask. Looks great. Okay. What are you guys saying? What's going on, Dope? Hello, Sky. Helix, the question mark is fucking me up. I don't know if Lucius is questioning Moris's identity or what. Oh, it might just be something that the Raz did. I didn't even... I didn't even notice that, I guess. Yeah, you're talking about when he first rolls in, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. But anyway, yeah. Does Lucius have something on his lap when he's sitting in the chair? I don't think he does. I think it shows him sitting down. Yeah. Oh, no, it's his grimoire. Yeah, this is just his grimoire. Just standing up. That's so awkward. Just hold it, bro. So it's funny because someone, I wanted to talk about this specifically. Someone was telling me that they thought something I said was just inaccurate. And I think this is leaning towards the proof that I might have been right here. I don't think Lucius can, I almost said survive. He can absolutely survive, but I don't think Lucius is able to be up and about for a long period of time, right? I do think he's still afflicted by whatever he was afflicted by when we saw him in the flashbacks, when he was in the wheelchair coughing and all that. He's not perfect himself yet, or else the game would be over. And I think this chair more or less is going to be acting as a type of charging station for Lucius. Because he did put out a lot of power. He made someone a paladin, and which is not just, you know, a touch of the forehead. It might look that way, but there's a lot that goes into that. Like, he's transmigrating a soul from hell into this body with another soul, and then purifying that soul for it to be a paladin. It is not an easy process. And then he turns into more or less a paladin himself in that same battle. You know, and we're just assuming the timeline, that he had just beat Lucifero, taken his heart, and we saw that he came in with a few less rays on his sun. So I have to assume this guy cannot do that sort of stuff all willy-nilly. There are still stipulations to his own power. So now, with whatever affliction that he may have had when we knew him in the wheelchair and all that, he could definitely be using them to sustain his life force, or keep building his body and repairing it. Now, you would think that with what he did with Morris, that it would be a bit easier for him to do that, especially just being connected to this chair. But it might go a bit deeper than that, and we'll see. And maybe it goes down to the fact that his very soul is crippled. Now that sounds dumb, I know, but to me, that's what it could be. But anyway, I do see it as a charging station. He's looking weak right now, and I'd love it if somehow, some way, we were able to get face to face with him right here to kind of press him in a moment of weakness, which is something that doesn't usually happen in manga. So that's just my thoughts there. But let's see, Samuel, will Asta save the Dark Triad? That'd be really interesting. I have had a theory for a long time that at least Xenon will be the one to go rogue here. In the very end, I do believe that Lucius was the one who set Xenon up, who set Alan up, who set that entire squad up when they went into the dungeon in an effort to get Xenon to come back and align himself with the Zogratis family and go with their whole plan of undying bodies. Because at the time, he didn't have incentive. Like, he had everything he wanted. He had a friend. He was striving towards his goals. But then it crumbled all right in front of him. And part of that was because he was too weak to find another way around an impossible obstacle. Not that I would fault him for the decision that he made. However, we do see in his fight against Yuno that most of his hatred towards Yuno was just because Yuno was the mage he would have been if he stayed on the straight and narrow. And he was too weak to do that. So he fell upon devils. So I think Xenon has the most opportunity for redemption here, despite him being not completely whole. And then we have Dante. I did also make another theory that Dante, if he is saved, would act more along the lines of Virgil in Dante's Inferno, where Virgil is a guide for Dante in hell. So I don't know if we're getting an Underworld arc still. I mean, it would make sense that we do, but it won't look like what we thought it did. So, but if anyone doesn't have that opportunity, I wouldn't want Vonica at least to get that. I would love it if she stayed alongside Lucius, let's say, and fought with him in the case that these three were able to get out at all. I think it would be really cool, and it would give the Triad a bit more of a a heartfelt little thing, right? Where we might see the value they have towards each other, right? And we did see only one instance of empathy and sort of compassion between Xenon to Dante when he found Dante after he got knocked out by Yami and Asta. So it's in there, but I would like to see it a bit more. We still haven't got their full stories yet. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. Hopefully we do see at least one redemption. I think at least Xenon is worth that. And I think a lot of the fandom just loves Dante for some reason. I've always hated Dante, but if he comes back, it would make a lot of sense because him and Asta did share that moment, though it was a little bit twisted. He was saying that the natural state of humans is evil, right? Which is straight up from Dante's Inferno. That's the thought process. So I do like if Asta does get to Dante again, that Dante sees the world the way Asta sees it. I think it would be kind of special, kind of cool. Trayvon, yeah, it was just Grimoire. Yeah, Trayvon, I don't know why Xenon's human again. That was one of the things I was confused about. Was even if he did intervene before these guys died, there is no reason that he should be human again. I mean, I guess technically, cut the heart in half with his. It's an arcane application of a spell, so it would make sense that the heart dies. But I mean, that's still his heart. You know what I mean? So I really don't know why he's here like that. So something's going on, and for Xenon to see, this part doesn't make sense either. So for Xenon to be human here, but then you have Vonica, who's all black, still afflicted by this curse, makes no sense. So something else is going on that we're not completely sure about here. It would be kind of cool if Megicula was able to manifest through Vonica this way. In the later case that they do get out, because she did really lose a third of herself. So I think to make up, to get the whole body of Vonica, where she already had an eye, would then help her manifest a bit better. But I am looking forward to Megicula's manifestation, by the way. So there's that. Salik, I know I'm a little late to the video, but I was thinking the same way you when people thought Lucifer was endgame, people didn't know how to pay attention to certain story details and said whatever. Yeah, that was definitely the most annoying part of being in this fandom. Helix, I'm thinking beast magic guys, the beast that Jack the Ripper slayed when he was young. So you're thinking he's the actual bear, is what you're saying? Helix Sekre showed that forbidden magic makes you lose your humanity. So I'm assuming that Yurulu practiced the same, given how Veto knew forbidden magic too, and was our last source of beast magic. So I see what you're saying. I don't know if I'm completely on board with that. Just because the guidelines for forbidden magic was stated by the Witch Queen just by saying that you need an exceptional amount of mana to pull it off. That only the elves had. And if I'm not mistaken, she even goes on to say that the elves, for the most part, were equal to her. But then there are ones that were not, and those were the apostles of Saphira. And those are the only ones that we've seen so far able to pull off forbidden magic. Now, the forbidden magic that Sekre pulled off was with magic stones to amplify her magic. Same with Licht, but Licht was already pulling off something forbidden without those stones. So, yeah, like I see that. But what about Yurulu makes you think that he was practicing forbidden magic? Because he doesn't have any signs of Weg that you would normally get, though I'm assuming it would be washed away with this whole paladin thing. But yeah, as far as the only source of beast magic coming from Veto, the only thing I can think of is that there was a pit stop made in Elysia. Now, again, if Moris has been in play this whole time, he knows about Elysia because he took the information from Lolopechka, where the Heart Kingdom was essentially shielding Elysia, the new homeland for the elves. So, if he made a pit stop, the only elves that are there are apostles of Saphira, and then their hybrid children. So, I'm just imagining that he made them into devils and then used their soul to put into whoever this guy is. That's the only logical thing I can think of. Or he's just a completely new character that we don't know anything about. Because there's more. I mean, there's more to this world than just the mages that we know. So I wouldn't be completely mad at it, but it's just a little weird, right? And to be super thorough, I don't think it would belong specifically to, like, let's say, okay, let's take the Apostles of Saphira, because this is something that I tried doing a long time ago on this channel that didn't actually pan out the way I thought it was going to, which would have made sense at the time. So we saw the Apostles of Saphira. We find out that they're working along what's called the Sephiroth, or the Tree of Life, which has a very specific attributations to each sphere, right? Then we find out that there's a mirror or a shadow to that. So when you look at the Tree of Life and Death together, I think we'll just use the top for reference. We have the Thaumael and Keter, right? Now, for reference, Thaumael in this series would be Satan, and Moloch if he is there. And then Keter would be Licht, right? So now, looking at their power, Licht has sword magic. I'm going to get killed if I say light magic, but you have to assume it was just like pure mana, right? I guess, with his sword magic. Then we have Lucifero, who I guess for all intents and purposes did not actually showcase his actual attribute, but from what we see, he had the gravity magic. Now, there is no real correlation between gravity and sword magic. There just isn't. However, then you go down a notch to Hokma, where that's Ron, the elf, and then you have Beelzebub. Now, Ron was able to switch things within space. It's a type of spatial magic, where Beelzebub actually does have spatial magic. However, that is still not, for all intents and purposes, his actual attribute again. So it's very hard to pinpoint when Tabata has been hiding these things very intentionally. We can't really go over to Raya just yet. Who else do we have, though? Okay, so we have Adremelech, right? Who is in, and we'll pull it up. And Tree of Life. Why am I in all caps? Here we go. Okay, I just want to look at it side by side with you guys, so you guys can. Oh, someone kind of made this thing. Let's look at this. It's more user friendly. Okay, and accurate. Good for them. Let me get to this picture. Click to see the spoiler. Oh my god, I've been spoiled. Okay, so like I was saying, you have Keter, then Thaumael, Lucifero, and then Licht. Like I was saying, you had Ron, Beelzebub. This could be the actual placement. It's either here or here. What? Can I get back? Okay. It really depends, because the way that Tabata actually lays out the Underworld with the three devils being in the same realm, and them saying that Astaroth was still like part of that three, shows me that it might not exactly be this layout, but we'll just use it for now. So yeah, if this is the case, Lucifuge and Raya don't really have the same magic. We haven't seen Lucificus's magic yet, but it's very tough to pinpoint. However, I did want to point this out. Veto is aligned with Adremelech. So these are real-time correspondences that we can actually see in real time, and to see if they have some type of relationship with each other, if they know of each other. But if anyone were to have beast magic in the realm of Qliphoth, it would be here with Adremelech. And I don't know if we can say that he does for sure, but we can also rule out that he doesn't. So it's just tough. But as soon as we see his magic, we can compare it to him. But for now, it doesn't seem very, very likely. Now, this, again, depends on the version of the Qliphoth that we're looking at, because sometimes Adremelech doesn't go there. Let's see. Adremelech is here in this one. Oh, I'm thinking of this one. Sorry. Let's see. Where did they put Asmodeus? Good for you. Asmodeus there. Okay. This person is... Oh, wait. What? Why did they put this there? That's Baal. And that shouldn't be Baal. Who is this, though? No, wait. That's Asmodeus. This is Baal. I get my three heads mixed up. Good for them. So Baal... but I like the one where Asmodeus is down here, because it makes more sense. But I just like it when Baal isn't on the Qliphoth, personally. This one doesn't have Baal at all. Because if you guys know me, then you know Baal is just Beelzebub. But it's like an incarnation of sorts, but a higher version of Beelzebub. So it makes no sense for Baal to be there, but not mad if he is there. Keep going through your comments stuff. Okay, spread that. How's it going, Shelly? Trayvon, you think this throne might be an apparatus? That's interesting. Yeah, I do. Trayvon, the Triad are also connected to it, so they're being used as like batteries, pretty much. I don't know that reference. Mobius chair? What is a Mobius chair? Is that like supposed to be Morbius chair? I'll type in what you put in. A Mobius chair. Higher. Why can I type that? Oh, what is this? Whatever this is, the answer is yes. Oh, DC. Okay. You know, as long as I sit on this chair, your antimatter cannot affect. What if Lucius comes out with this line? You know, as long as I sit on this chair, your anti-magic cannot affect me. What if he says that? I hope he doesn't say that. What does this one say? He's all... Oh, is this the Flash? Who is this? Today's a new day, a new vocation. Since the creation of the Mobius chair, it is... Okay. I am curious about this chair, though. Because I mean, ideas aren't new. You know what I mean? So... oh, what did I just see? Oh, okay. Never mind. So it's a time-space dimensional vehicle operated by the new god Metron. Oh. So it allows him to travel and observe the universe. Oh, that's dope. I would actually love if this chair operated in a like fashion, actually. That's cool. The capabilities. Let's see. So the Mobius chair is Metron's technological masterpiece and allows him to cross space, time, and interdimensional barriers. Wow. Okay. Nigh omniscient. Oh, God. Just adds. I hate it all. Okay. Energy projection, life support, danger and life sense, force. Actually, I think this all qualifies as something that can and probably has already happened. So, like, okay. I like that, actually. Who said that? That was actually pretty cool. Trippy. Nice, dude. I actually like this a lot. And I think it would make sense for Lucius too. You know, not being able to do things like time travel just by wherever he's standing, he just time travels. I think it's kind of better that if he's confined to this chair, almost like a Cerebro, if we're talking DC Marvel stuff, right? Cerebro as well. This is how he's able to see everything, right? And remember that the world tree is connected literally to the world, so when we see all those branches, those roots coming from that chair and in that room in general, right? It makes sense that he'd be able to know everything happening in the world as well. So I really like that idea. So now it begs the question, now what if Lucius is on a whole different side mission in a different space and time? Now, this goes into a topic that we talked about a long time ago, talking about what's called the Jinn state, which is a type of astral projection. So, curiously, I would say it would be a little bit interesting. Remember when people were talking about how when Dante first surfaced in this series, how we were all looking forward to, like, oh, they didn't beat the real Dante. Like, the real Dante is like that brain in the jar, you know, that sort of thing. And he was just making a clone, which would have been really efficient, and he really could have used a shadow clone at that moment in time. But it'd be really cool if, like, say the Lucius that met up with Asta on the rooftop wasn't actually him, and he's been sitting here this whole time because he can't actually walk. I think would be kind of cool. And he's been using a type of astral projection in order to do this sort of stuff. Now, I can't full on say like how he would. Okay, okay. Let's just kind of spitball off this because I really like this. Thank you, Trippy. Like this is the stuff I need. This is why you guys are here. You guys get my brain juices going. So let's say this. Let's say Lucius is somehow able to, find a throne, and use it before the actual. Okay. Let's talk about chapter 331 where we left off, where he turns up in Julius's body. I wonder if he's able to transmigrate, like completely. By transmigrate, I mean like essentially incarnate himself into another body. It's just tough to handle, but I do like it because I do have this thought that he's going to find a new and better vessel, especially since if this is the case where his body still doesn't quite work. The most efficient vessel on the planet right now is Yuno's, and I would really like him to take Yuno's body, but that's a headcanon for right now. But through this chair and the power of transmigration of his soul, I don't think it'd be completely impossible. I'll kind of have to hold on to that. I'll have to think about that a little bit more. But very interesting thing. Shelly, I'm thinking that Tabata might save the Dark Triad for a sequel. I don't think he's doing a sequel. I think he's like super, like he's pushing it for this series right now. Trey, who's saying you don't like Xenon or Dante? Yeah, I don't really like Dante. Jack, do you think it's possible to create a human? So, do I think creating a human is forbidden magic? No, I don't. Trayvon, thoughts on Morris's backstory? He was born blind, has an extremely unique magic type, and had an interesting line about no longer needing him. I really don't know. I have no actual thoughts on Morris as far as like how he came to be the way he was. I know a lot of people are of the thought that he gave up his eyesight for like knowledge or something. I don't agree with that. Or else he would have had a devil by now. Would have known about devils before the spade arc. So I don't really know, to be honest with you. He's a big mystery. I will say this though, as far as events that may come up. Remember, I have conflated Lucius and Morris to the stories of Hoder and Balder, where one is killed by his blind brother, which I believe was Hoder, was the blind one. Not that Morris is blind now, but I do predict that Morris will be that Gin type character from Bleach, right? Where he will be the one to turn the tables. Might be unsuccessful at first, but will open up the door to the real endgame villain, which I will hold is Beelzebub. So I am on the lookout for that, and I mean, think about it. Modification magic versus soul configuration, right? I added on the last part, of course, but he is configuring someone's soul and mind. Modification magic should be able to override that. So he can play the part pretty well, I would assume. And act like he's close to Lucius, and wait until Lucius is at his highest, and then attempt to strike him down. Now, he could be set up for an endgame villain too. Would I like that particularly? Probably not. But I do like the idea that modification magic can go as far as to override the soul magic of Lucius. So that's as much as I can say, pretty much. I don't know about the rest. Okay. Felix, Yurulu does fit Black Clover's elf naming customs, so I can see your theory. Oh, actually it does. I didn't even think about it like that. But Yurulu, I would need to look at the scans for where they say his name, because I know Buzz said that's the name that he gave him. So it's probably something along those lines, but it's not Yuerlu exactly, is what Buzz was saying. But it does. It actually does. It sounds like Lufalu. I didn't actually notice that. He looks so. Shelly, I always thought Asta could be a second reincarnation of Lick's son, but I could be wrong. I don't think that's actually too far off. How's my Thanksgiving? My Thanksgiving was fine. Just chilled with some family friends and my mom. It was pretty chill. Thanks for asking. Let's see. Byron, how's it going? Honestly, Lucius has had some serious Jesus metaphors. Example being, I mean, yeah, obvious. So, but that's the thing, is that the whole blatant like Jesus and Savior archetype that he's putting out is exactly what the Antichrist does. It's all the miracles performed by the Antichrist are things that the Antichrist does, not exactly to mimic Jesus in a sense, but to gain the trust of the populace. Now, the Antichrist, in some depictions, has no idea that they're even the Antichrist, or even that they're mimicking a more holy version of who they are. They really think that they are the God or the new God, until they realize that they are not. And that comes with the presence of the real thing. So I think that, again, I've been on this whole Antichrist thing for a long time. This is all in the whole guidebook of Antichrist. This whole, oh, yep, we have a whole cross for him. Okay, great. That's what we need from an Antichrist. He's literally working with devils. I mean, not to say that Jesus in the story wasn't, but I mean, this guy is using the power of devils. So he's definitely most aligned with it. Ate a devil's heart, for God's sake. I don't know. And you know, not to say that Asta isn't working with the devil, right? But he's definitely not out here screwing up relationships and trying to bend the world to what he believes it is, by force. He's doing it in a more altruistic way. So this is the difference, and I think Asta has exhibited way more traits of a Christ-like figure than Lucius ever has. And not to say that these things aren't godlike or miraculous, but he's forcefully changing people, which is not something that a Christ-like figure would do. It's something that has to come from within a person in order to save them. And I've used this example for so many times, but Asta using his Demon Destroyer sword to absorb more or less sins of people and forbidden magic is purification at its finest. He's not making them into something better, sure. I mean, yes, he is, but not physically. What he's doing is saving people, or elves in this case, from themselves. And it's a new spiritual foundation that they have that makes them turn. It's not so much that he's affecting their soul and like, okay, you got to think the way that I think for this to work. It's not what happens. People like Asta, for genuine reasons, and it's because of him that he's able to break down those barriers, those mental and spiritual walls that people put up in order to be positively influenced. That is the real Christ-like figure. Now, working with the devil, it's really interesting because Jesus, even in New Testament, while walking the earth, is actually accompanied by Lucifer himself. And Lucifer is always in his ear like, hey, if you give me your soul, you can have the earth. And that has many implications, but we'll just talk about this. That think about this whole time, Asta's been walking alongside this devil that for the most part of the series, he had no idea who it was. He just knew that it was supplying him with power. And he admits himself that he probably should have paid more attention and tried to get to know Libe before he was forced to do so. But he's been walking with the devil this whole time. And in the very end, now, this is part of the series Paradise Lost, which is a very accurate poetical depiction of... Did I say poetical? Is that a word? I just meant poetic. Poetic depiction of what happens in the story of Christ, where he's walking the earth as a more or less a demigod, with Satan, or not Satan, but Lucifer at his side, spiritually, in his ear. And then it is through the harrowing of hell that Jesus ends up saving, more or less, Lucifer. And now, in the Gnostic viewpoint, Lucifer and Jesus actually end up more or less, I don't want to say fusing, because that's not what it was. I guess we'll use that until I can just randomly come up with a better word for it. But fusing, which is what brought Jesus back and gave him the more full power, right? So now we have the dichotomy of light and dark that are now together working in harmony. And this is actually Asta's whole story. So if you go back into some of the earlier videos, I talk about Paradise Lost, like as I'm going through not the story, but the text of it. Very interesting stuff, and it talks about Beelzebub and exactly what happens. I mean, long story short, not only are Satan and Lucifer two different things in Paradise Lost, Satan is exactly as described in Black Clover here. He's very arrogant. Nobody likes him. And then he was overthrown by Beelzebub later on. But before that happens, Beelzebub is actually written to have spatial-like powers, where they say he was able to not only expand and form hell into the shape that we see now as the Tree of Death, but he was also able to open a gateway or a portal into the realm outside of the tree, which is the realm of chaos, which is where God actually operates out of. So through that, Lucifer was able to grasp the power of chaos. And from there, he's able to meddle with human affairs, because that's how God is able to do it as well. So this whole formation was due to Beelzebub, and the whole population, while he is not the king of hell, he is the king of demons. And the reason for that is because he was the one who expanded hell and its population. Now, along with this portal for Lucifer, he was able to bring in other pantheons. Now, we end up getting into figures that are, I want to say, God, what's his name? The guy who made Cthulhu, right? These types of pantheons, the Greek pantheon, found in Paradise Lost as well. It's all ends up being combined. And this is what populates hell and reinforces their army in a later event to battle heaven and its forces, which doesn't really end up getting that far. But anyway, Lucifer leaves, but he entrusts it to Satan. Well, Satan and Moloch, essentially. Moloch kind of played the second-hand man, where he was just like a rabid dog almost, where he wanted to go right back at God and like fight him right then and there when they just lost. Where Satan was influenced by Beelzebub, where Beelzebub was like, look, we gotta chill down here, regroup, and that's exactly what they did. And over time, Satan became more and more of a tyrant. Beelzebub and his forces overthrew him, and he became the king of hell and the king of demons. So that goes in the whole Solomon thing, where they end up getting released, and Beelzebub is the only one who sticks behind, and all that stuff. That's a whole different story. But anyway, that's why I do think Beelzebub is going to end up being our endgame villain. But as far as the whole Christ-like thing goes, yes, Lucius does depict that, but is definitely more so Asta that depicts that a bit better here, in my opinion. Shelly. I believe Tabata is planning for a sequel because I believe he's going to go back to his one-shot. Yeah, okay, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, as a sequel, I have a feeling that he has set Black Clover up as a prequel to Garanus. Yeah, I don't know about that. Have you heard of the Fausting Bargain? Yes, I have, only truths. I actually have, I think, 2 or 3 videos on that. Trayvon, I imagine that's why Lucius wants Morris on his side, since he was able to manipulate the soul to an extent, just off his innate magic. Yeah, I mean, totally. Could be the reason. So, does this confirm Lily can use her water magic still? Given how Heath used... Yeah, I don't think it was ever off the table. I've been looking at these paladins just like we look at the Triad and their disciples. Where they have both their magic and the devil that they're hosting. Shelly, Samuel, will Asta use the Demon Destroyer sword to save everyone, or use Zeton from the Seven Ryuzen? I need Asta to use his Demon Destroyer sword because it's his best sword, and when we're talking about breaking cause and effect, it should be able to break this whole paladin thing, but he just hasn't. He just doesn't use it. I don't know, man. Maybe Tabata shafting it because it is too strong. I don't know, but maybe Asta is just, he is stupid. I mean, he's not stupid, but he's definitely not the smartest character in the series. So I don't know. Maybe he doesn't realize the power of the Demon Destroyer sword. So yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping he does. It's the best one. But anyway. So now I did want to talk about the Seven Ryuzen, because it started off very shaky. So I was like, Seven Ryuzen. Now I know the easiest thing to think about for these guys are the 7 lucky gods. Totally, I'm not against that. However, they don't really depict the 7 lucky gods. So I just took it upon myself, like, maybe I'll just, like, spitball some things that come off the top of my head when I think of the number 7. 7 is related to heaven. You have the 7 Ryuzen, meaning that they're peaceful dragons. Ryu, dragon, Zen, peace. So I would say heavenly dragons could be related to angels. But then you also have, when you think of this series, you think of demons. Then when you think of the number 7, and then you think of demons, you think of the 7 deadly sins. And I'm like, huh. These are very distinct characters. Now, when I say that, I mean that they're so, like, we can that Asta happy go some moments of depression, that about something just like he's happy over the mask, but he seems kind of goes by the book, a little dialogue. Is more the quiet type, it seems like, more the back guy, challenging and fake. So now, I'm not saying that these guys would be like these sins themselves, but let's think about this. We have one person that we've known for the entire series from the Land of the Sun, which is Yami. And I'm still on board with the thought that the heart that we see that Yami has is not new because of the Advent. And again, I only lean on this just because if that were the case, William would also have this heart, and it never went on record to state that he did. So I would have to assume that if not all of the residents have this heart, at least the Ryuzen do. So now we kind of get back to this this idea that that these guys exist on a bit of a higher plane, where they're not typical humans. Whatever they are, they're more so a link between the two, which would make sense because Yami was a link between the two worlds. So taking this and then running along with the 7 deadly sins, I would say that these people are not only 7 deadly sins, we can people are cool. Of course, it'd be I think he's Raya, the pervy sage, lustful. Like, yeah, that is lust. You can lust in different ways. Gluttony is not just for food. You can be a glutton in more than one way. Gluttony and greed would ultimately end up falling into the same category if you took them at face value. I say, don't take it at face value, but also apply things and see what you can. These characters. Wait.
Said I love her, but I never made a promise. She wants seed, told her nothing in a blossom. Badging me for info at the shipper to Wisconsin. Only good for the lozenge. My whole contact list hit it, I don't even want it. Ting showed a jet love, but it never meant much. Never make decisions off a head rush. I've been down to $10. IRS kept track for 10 months. Had to switch how I went about it. Dues paid, collected all the loose change that I had left. Blew it on a new game.
Oh, it's going. But I probably just sound like a robot. Nope, that looks accurate now. Does it? Yeah, it looks like we're back on. Jeez. I don't know why that's been happening, you guys. It seems like the last 3 or 4 streams, it's just cut out real randomly. Don't know. Maybe it's all these tabs I got open. But someone let me know if they can hear me now. Hello. Paging. Doctor someone. Where's that from? Okay, thank you, Goku. Goku versus Naruto 22. Goku wins. What? Okay, anyway. So we have these characters that we don't know anything about, but we have enough expression from everyone, you know, to at least try. I've actually had the toughest time placing Ichika with any of the, or with a couple of the sins, rather. To me, Ichika, I think, represents, I wanted to say wrath, but I think wrath isn't quite it. So it's between Ichika and the new guy that's challenging Asta right now. I would say that he's probably wrath and would also exhibit some type of patience. While Ichika is more so pride, where she expresses humility. Now, we've seen 2 different Ichikas in this series. The one we see against Asta, any interaction that she has with Asta, is super prideful. She's always talking about how, like, the land of Hino's great, Ryu's great, proud of where she comes from and who she works with and for. Shows humility when it comes to Ryu, right? So when Ryu blocks their swords from that strike, she's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? I'll cut out my own guts right now. That's humility. She's showing humility to Ryu. So I'm thinking that she would be this. And then the reason why I think this is important is that we see even Lucifero has these two almost personalities. And to him, it looked highly unstable. I would say just over the level of what Ichika shows us. So I think this might end up playing a role, because I was thinking too, like, in a series where you have devils, I would assume that you would include the 7 deadly sins. I think that's almost standard to include, but he never did, which I wasn't really too mad at. But with these 7, I do think that it will play a part. Now, we have someone who would have been a Ryuzen, I do feel like, who was not there, and I've always equated him with sloth. We know Yami loves sitting on the toilet. He loves being lazy. Like, he'll sit around, read a newspaper and shit all day. He didn't even like flying. He uses Finral to get around. He's lazy. One of the laziest mofos in the series, if not the laziest, actually. But then he's also diligent, right? Where he believes work and work ethic is who you are. And that's the most important. And that's exactly what diligence is. So now we take sloth, we relate it to a demon, and the demon is Belphegor. Now, Belphegor is the lord of he is the lord of the land of the dead. And darkness dwells within his specific sphere within the Clippa. So, this part makes too much sense to me. And I'm not sure if they were able to replace a Ryuzen, because I really don't know. I really don't know. But we also don't know what it takes to become a Ryuzen either. Whether that's just like something that is dictated by how much your Yoku you're born with, like all the other class systems that we have in the Four Kingdoms, or if it's something more intentional, where they would have to be chosen. Just like Yami is the chosen one in the Four Kingdoms, how Morris puts it, these could also be chosen ones who are linked to the devils of sin there, but are also maybe linked to a higher divinity, leading to a virtue. This could introduce us easily to angels if they're able to do so. But these guys are the better vessels, I would say. Maybe not so much an intermediary force like the humans are, but better vessels for even devils, I would think. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about lately, is that these are those guys related to this. Now I gotta go to Twitter to kind of remind myself of some of the stuff I was posting, or my computer can just freeze. What is going on? Holy good lord. We're going through it today. That's for sure. There we go. Okay. Get this off the screen. Oh my goodness. This is painful. While we are sifting through, what did you guys do for Thanksgiving? Okay. Yep, we talked about that. Let's see. We talked about that. Keith, Tori gate. Do like that their horns are very similar. Now, this has really meant nothing so far in this story. I just think it's it's kind of cool because I do particularly like this this set of horns. I think it's the coolest. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's just what it is. Okay. So, yeah, I ended up reading more on Benzaiten and the Legend of Enoshima, which is the Legend of Hino in Black Clover. And in real world, in real time, the Legend of Enoshima, in Enoshima, labels Benzaiten and the dragon as a couple, which differs from a lot of the different versions of the story, but I would assume we're just going to go with the actual legend that they hold on to, which makes it very interesting, because, like we discussed in some other streams, it does say that they never actually fought. They never did. The dragon just ended up falling in love, and they made it seem that Benzaiten took advantage of the fact that the dragon fell for her. It was like, yeah, why don't you, just chill out and give me that wish granting jewel that you have, and then boom, that was kind of it. And then they go on to say that Benzaiten uses snakes and dragons as her avatar. So then we have to look at this like, why would she even be fighting a dragon at all? You know what I mean? So I feel like there's just a lot in that history that hasn't been translated so well. Now, this was something that I found very interesting. So we all knew that Benzaiten was a water deity going into this. However, it's actually the most accurate to describe her as someone, a maiden who controls all things that flow, which include things like water, love, music, and even the flow of time. And this was what stuck out to me, because now, if we have an antagonist who, of course, has the power over time, we have a protagonist now who might have some power over the flow of time itself as well. So it brought me back to the Dangai theory, where maybe time is actually condensed here. And one day for them is like a second or a minute or 5 minutes in the Four Kingdoms, which gives them more time to become stronger and all that. And it would bring them closer to the realm of Devas, is what it does. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but when it comes to the cycle of reincarnation and all that stuff, the Devas, who live in the highest level of reincarnation, live in such a way that every moment is like an eternity, right? Everything that they taste is the most beautiful thing ever. Everything is bliss, and everything is within a single moment in time, meaning that time there is wildly condensed, and they even describe it like this, where a minute for them is 1,000 years for us. So they look invincible, immortal. However, they do end up dying. There was, I think the first video I talked about this, or the possibility of samsara, or the six paths of reincarnation playing a role in Black Clover. I equate the Deva realm to the people of Hino overall. But they might not be actual Devas, is the thing. They just might be living very close to Devas, in a Deva-like sense. I think I had a couple more things I did want to touch on here. Okay. Yep, we already got the thread. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this one's interesting. So I guess to kind of circle back to the seven deadly sins, if the seven deadly sins are used in the series and do connect with the Ryuzen seven, that means we have new devils that we have to take into consideration. So we have the Clipotic demons that we know are the rulers, which we're currently kind of running low on, right? But then there are two added ones with the theory of the seven deadly sins, which are Mammon and Leviathan, right? And then along with this whole Antichrist thing, you have another anti-Messiah, right? And from that middle realm where the Antichrist is from does lay a dragon named Therion. And Therion is a primordial dragon, and in occultist lore is the first ever dragon of the universe that was able to eat any and every single thing and had to be locked away. So now the only person that was able to do this was actually Abaddon, or to actually summon this dragon. Abaddon guards the gate and has the key to Therion, the first primordial dragon. So here I'm speculating that this in a possible incarnation for this new guy Yurulu could be Abaddon. Now, the fact that Veto is even on the tree tells me that this is least likely the case. But yeah, anyway, just a thought I was putting out there. But again, if we're rolling with seven deadly sins or the seven heavenly virtues, Mammon, Leviathan, Abaddon, and one other I'm forgetting have to be included in this, which are non-Clipotic rulers. And then I guess to add fuel to what I was saying earlier, I forgot who was saying, I think it was Byron, saying that Lucius is bringing up all like the Christ-like symbols. But we have, this is a line from Scripture. The first beast comes from the sea, right? And then the second comes from the earth. So if we go with Lucius not actually being completed, he's not become the full beast that he is. And of course, Clipot is within the earth. It's an earthly type of realm, very physical. So I think there's definitely more Antichrist vibes coming from this. And again, this is more Antichrist things. This is an actual verse from the Scripture. This verse has been rewritten so many times. I actually have this site, I should have pulled it up before this, where they go over every single rewriting, but they all essentially say the same thing. It says, the coming of the lawless one will be in accordance with the work of Satan, with every kind of miracle that is with false signs and wonders. So he's not exactly working with Satan, but he's working with Satan by having ingested his core. So he's using Satan as a vehicle. So I do find it very interesting that it does fit these lines pretty well. Here we get to bag on people thinking Morris was never going to come back. That was foolishness. Straight up malarkey. I don't think I said anything important outside of this. Let's see. Oh, this was interesting. I don't know if you guys read this, but I thought it was really interesting, the whole Dorothy Reeve thing. I had to go back over that, knowing that we had some like psychology stuff happening. And Reeve and Dorothy played that really well. And I'm going to wait for the story to play out a bit more to like really flesh that out. But the stuff that I have on here, on this particular thread, does come from like the DSM for psychology. If you guys don't know what the DSM is, it's the book that is updated, I think, every 4 to 6 years for psychological conditions. So, where they do talk about dreaming and what that means to the psyche and what it can do, and the influence it has on the influence your unconscious has on your conscious is all up in there. So, if anyone's interested in reading that, it's long. If I had to put it into pages, I'd say it's like this specific topic in the book is like close to 200 pages. No, I wouldn't say that much. Maybe like 100, maybe just shy of 100. That's a far fall, right, from 200. But it's not listed in pages, just a very long web page, very small font. But yeah, it's very interesting because conscious and unconscious play a huge role in this series. Not even just Lucius and Julius. We do have Asta and Yuno who struggle with both their conscious and unconscious. But Reeve and Dorothy were able to kind of bring that to life, which was really cool. And it was actually this part, Sally takes advantage of it. Because I don't know if you guys remember this fight. And now I'm looking back, it probably doesn't get as much hype as it should be getting. Because here is where Tabata first displays that, how prevalent the unconscious mind is in the real world. So if we take Dorothy's magic into consideration, she's able to make a whole universe. And remember, Luck was trying to pinpoint where it ended. And remember, we know Luck's magic sensing ability is absurd, probably the best in the series. And he was like, this place is endless. Like, it's an actual pocket universe. So Dorothy in this universe, or Reeve in this sense, is able to make things that she thinks of. She brings it into existence. She is the god of this world. However, Sally takes it upon herself to take advantage of her unconscious mind. And she gives her visual and auditory cues, which is super dope. It's like a psychological experiment. But Dorothy looks at Reeve, and she kind of goes like, wow, this is definitely an uphill battle. And she goes like, well, hey, wait, what are these? And she's putting those circles around her eyes. And she's leaving it to Reeve to fill in the blank. So that's naturally what the human mind does, is fill in blanks. You have to make things make sense. If you see blood on a door handle, and then you open the door and you just see a bottle of ketchup just exploded on the floor in the next room that you just opened the door to, you're probably going to be like, oh, you know what, that wasn't even blood, that was ketchup on the door handle, and someone had spoken. You wouldn't think twice about it because you made the connection, right? And it seems logical. However, it could definitely be that was actual blood, and there just so happened to have been spilled ketchup on the next room. So this is what the brain does, and this is why we're able to make theories and conclusions, right? It's a whole scientific process. So now, by giving that visual cue of glasses, Reeve fills in the blank, glasses, and she unwittingly makes glasses for Sally. And while it's a really funny moment, it's really actually deep when it comes to psychology. So now they start spamming the word exit. Now these are the auditory cues that they're taking advantage of. Because when people say stuff, you can't unhear that. It goes through your brain, and your brain naturally picks apart that word, its meaning, its implications to the situation, and everything about it. And it has to pay attention. So now, in this, now we're getting a bit off of the applicable psychology. Reeve is a godlike being in this series. So somehow she's able to kind of block the unconscious thoughts, even though people are just yelling words at her. But what they end up doing is creating a silhouette of Dorothy within the smoke. And so now this is not just a regular visual cue. This is something that would trigger Reeve, because the shadow would look familiar, And she would assume that, well, I'm here, so I must have accidentally created Dorothy when she didn't. But then she ends up creating the real Dorothy on top of that, which is what led to her downfall. So now they end up getting into a battle where they're both able to create these things, but remember, when it comes to, like, we've seen Union, for Asta specifically, right? Where two souls working in the same direction will give us a more ultimate being. But anytime we have opposition, things start to deteriorate. So when these two are fighting in this pocket space and they're creating these things, battling each other, the pocket space itself starts falling apart. Now, to me, this was symbolizing how if you have two souls in the same vessel that are at odds and they're both active, they can't exist in the same place. They're not going to work efficiently. So now we have a guy like Lucius, who was this subconscious part of him, right? The unconscious. And then overrode the conscious Julius, so that they're not working necessarily in tandem or against each other. He just took over completely. So it's stuff like this where we have to look back in the series and just kind of think that Tabata was painting a story long before any of this was happening. This is why I really like him as an author personally, because he builds the idea up before advancing you to the next concept. It's almost like a class, you know? You start with 2 plus 2. You know that, that's 4. Then you have 2 times 2, which is another way of saying 2 is 2 times, which is also 4. So we're moving from addition to multiplication. Then, we move on to more advanced things as we go. So now we have to, and this has just been the theme as well. We just have to keep putting the pieces together and compounding the ideas and the concepts that we have learned over time, and especially when it comes to reincarnation, right? We know that incarnations and reincarnations in the series are vastly different, but have similar mechanics, and it's just like that in real life anyway. But the way that Tabata paints it, from the Elf arc all the way up until now, helps us make more sense of the story. I see a couple comments in here, so let me read them. Hey Jack, you had mentioned that Astaroth can take on female vessels. Maybe this goddess... I did not say Astaroth could take on female vessels. I did not say that. I have said that Astaroth is conflated with Astarte, which is ultimately an inaccurate representation. However, I will say that this is probably... it's not off the table that Astaroth could be female, because it is a popular belief, but ultimately it is inaccurate. Shelly, I wonder if one of the dragons could be connected to Noel. I don't know. I was very interested looking at it, thinking like, how would a Sea Dragon's War, go up against the 5-headed dragon here? I don't think it'd fare off too well, but I think there's something there with those dragons, though, for sure. Not sure where Noel fits, to be honest. Samuel, the dragon is like Torma's right hand in the scientific railgun. I have no idea what that is. Yeah, I have no idea what that is. But what was I going to say here? Yeah, it was really cool. Really like that. I'm probably going to give it another read at some point too. The whole Dorothy Reeves situation was dope. Also, this is something else we have to consider too. So Sally, it might be more of a pivotal character as we get into the final parts of the series. So Sally was able to full on incarnate elf souls into new vessels, into completely new vessels, and age those vessels. So she's the only one that's had a feat like this. And I'm wondering, because remember, she says this, I put this picture up intentionally. She can sweep up Asta and I can run all the experiments I want on him. Now, she later then, when they start siding with each other, makes a deal with Asta that once this is all said and done, she can have some samples from him that she can experiment with. And now, they didn't show the samples being taken from Asta. However, we can assume that she got it, because a deal's a deal. It's I would say that there's room, not that I particularly like this, but there is room in a case that Asta can be reformed as a vessel, and his soul incarnated into this new vessel, and this new vessel can potentially have magic. And I did some reading while I've been away from you guys, and I took a look at the one-shot of Black Clover that I'd never read before. And the cover of it is Asta and his grimoire. And this grimoire is in the shape of a wreath. Let me see if I can pull it up for you guys, because I think it's important. Because we see that Tabata was just using this this one shot as like kind of a test to see how he was going to write the series. Some things stuck, some things didn't. But overall, this particular thing isn't something that he would just let go of. So let me see if I can pull it up. Okay, here we go. Where you at? Where they at though? Where they at though? Oh, is it? Hopefully it's just being slow. Oh, it's just being slow. Okay. While we wait for that. But yeah, Asta has this grimoire, and it's red. And it's got a circle around the clover. I don't know what's going on with this. It should be up. Let me see if I can just pull it up on like Google or something. Black Clover one shot. Okay, you know what I mean, Google. Come on. Here we go. That's it. So, check this out. No one say this looks like Ichigo, because it doesn't. But anyway. This is his grimoire that he's got in that series. And it didn't give him a real specific attribute. I remember people back in the day were like, oh, he's got fire magic with his grimoire. He doesn't. He doesn't have that in the series, so I don't know where people are getting that. However, he does pull out like some mixture between like the Demon Dweller sword and the Demon Slayer sword. It's like a mixture of the two. Out of the book. So, and it cancels magic and all that stuff. But the fact that it has a design like this tells me that Tabata was going for something specific. So, this is a wreath. And a wreath is important when it comes to mythology, because it represents wholeness. It represents perfection. It represents kingship. And so this is the entire basis of the character I've been building up Asta to be on this channel, where we talk about things like the Kenoma and Pleroma, which are the emptiness of God and the fullness of God, where he is the Kenoma, and the Kenoma is set up to become the Pleroma, which is God on earth, inside of a physical vessel. So here, I think Tabata was even experimenting with that by trying to give us a more detailed grimoire like most people get in this series, but opted not to do that. However, with Licht, and we've said this very early on the channel, Licht's his power comes straight from the source, essentially. That is what Keter does. Keter on the Tree of Life absorbs the actual energy of God and disperses it throughout the rest of the spheres. And that's the whole point to this. So it makes sense that he has that particular shape on his grimoire. Samuel, you said the dragon is... Oh, well, I already read that. Shelly Jack, I just tagged you into Tabata's one shot. I guess we can give it a look. If my computer loads. It was Night Barone. Why am I tagged in several things? Bruh. Think I'm reading all of this? It's not that much. Okay. This is not actually the one shot. Great. Yeah, this is not the one shot. This is that. Okay. I'm thinking this is the one shot here then. Okay, this is about Tabata's story, like his backstory. That's not the one shot. That's his autobiography. Literally said that in the post. Oh, goodness. Okay, back to 2005. Okay, great. Okay, definitely no need to tag me in stuff like this. These... these are bait tweets that I don't appreciate. I'm gonna give it like a couple more clicks. If it's not there, I'm not doing anything. Okay, yeah, we saw this. So we need the English versions though. So yeah, I've seen all this. Looks cool. I don't feel one way or another about it. It's just whatever to me. Interested to read it when the actual English stuff does come out, but there's nothing there. I shouldn't have pressed home because the horny people are on the home page. Yo, can't do that. But anyway, I don't think there's anything else I wanted to talk about. I'm pretty sure that might have been it. Let me scroll back just a little bit just to make sure. Okay, that's where we were. Sally's could recreate Asta's body. Oh yeah, I didn't finish that thought. So Sally could recreate Asta's body. He did have a grimoire that does depict some type of fullness, and so I think that if Asta's vessel happens to be broken because he was born to someone like Lucida, then he could obtain his magic and go from there. I would hate if that happens, because Asta with no magic is iconic. I think we all appreciate that. I think he, at this point, can appreciate that himself. But just a thought to put out there. But that goes along with the whole enlightenment theory, right? Where you find everything in nothingness, and everything is actually more empty than nothingness is. So it's that realization that brings forth a new power. Oh shoot, something had happened in that one shot though. I'll think about it later, probably make it a post. But anyway, something had happened, because I think I was even telling you guys that an upward potential of Asta's power could be manipulating his ki outwardly, but not in a sense of like doing ki blast. Remember that Ryu says that everyone manipulates ki in order to use spells, and they do this subconsciously. If you consciously output ki and all that stuff. Then you can get to some type of natural magic to manipulate freely, where you're essentially manipulating elements, right? Where now Asta is able to use magic, but it doesn't come from him having mana. It comes from him being able to use ki in a more advanced way, is how I would look at it. So I think that would be a really cool application of ki that couldn't just be copied by just anyone. I think it would take some extreme training and probably someone who's more so empty, or in order to do this. So I would love it if it went that way, personally. But yeah, Sally had those things first before we saw it with Dante, those little tubes. Let's see. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I think that's about it, you guys. So I'm going to hop off. I hope you guys liked the stream. This chapter was super cool. I'm not going to promise when the next stream will be, because every time I make a promise, I just end up breaking it. So it'll be soon. Hopefully when the leaks drop, or the day after, or that Friday, we'll careen back here and see what theories need to be updated, or what new theories can be formulated. But yeah, other than that, the chapter has been super dope. Loved it. Can't wait to read the officials. I would like to know this guy's real name. But yeah, anyway, hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, stay out the way. It's been your boy Jack Host to go. You either know or you don't.